Sorry, am I the only one that can't hear anything? Is it playing yet?
I can't hear too.
Hello, Edima, we can't hear any sound.
Can you hear it now?
No, not at all.
So you can't hear the song?
No, we can't.
Okay.
I think you have to go to the source of sound or something. There's a settings for this.
Okay, let me do that. Can you hear now?
Yeah, I can now.
Okay. Let me stop share. Okay. Can you hear me now? If I have to shift back, switch the audio.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. So I stumbled on that video, I think 2 years ago. And every time I need to name any of our music instruments from this part of the country, from Akwa Ibom, I usually go back to that video to confirm the names that were already written on the video. That's why I played it. Ironically, they were able to name all the musical instruments, but they didn't name the dance steps. And that's what inspired the theme of this year's conference. If there are videos naming our Nigerian dance steps the way everything African now is being labeled, So I hope you enjoyed the video. The dance they are doing there is a combi. Dr. Efure is a pro in that in that particular style. So it's a combi. In fact, my own documentation project will be on a combi. And I'm hoping that by the time we are done, everybody will select a project or a dance, Nigerian cultural dance they want to use what we have discussed about today to work on. All right, so like I promised, we would all introduce ourselves after the video. Okay, so I'll start with myself. I'm Ediba Emara. I'm the creative director of Danceville. A creative director and producer of dance-themed activities. And yes, at Danceville, we also run a dance studio and produce dance shows for either screen or stage. Right, so I think let me go through the way I see people on the screen. Dr. Ifure.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Ifure Ufoda Zobo, a lecturer in the Department of Studies, University of Uyo, and incidentally the Akwa Ibom State Chairperson of National Association of Nigerian Theatre Arts Practitioners. I have been dancing for as long as I can remember, the Ghana Africana Theatre, and I call myself a dancer. Okay, so I can enlarge it to be a dance artist because I get to write on dances, I get to create, I get to perform. Thank you very much.
Okay, so next is Akanji Bolaji. I got the name right.
Yeah, Akanji Bolaji. Good morning, everyone. My name is Akanji Bolaji. I'm a visual artist, so I'm an entrepreneur in the space in the dance industry. So I don't see myself as an educator or a dancer. I'm just trying to explore the solutions for the dance industry, the available solution for the dance industry. So the name of my business is Dance Up, which is danceup.org. So what we do is that we organize dance competitions for dancers and dancing enthusiasts. So our mission is just to revolutionize the way dance competition is being organized. So anywhere from any part of the world can actually join a dance competition without being on stage. So that's what we do. So we are trying to be a leader in that space. So we started this year, but we started operation this year, but what's it called? Like development process started last year. So we are looking into proving our concepts, our ideas. So what we are looking into just to like trying to find a solution to commercialize the dance industry, because just as we talked about structure in the music industry, we need a structure in the dance industry as well. So I feel like we can actually add value within that space. So that's why we are actually working on that through Dance Up.
Okay, awesome.
Hello,
yes,
is
yes. No, also, in fact, that's also important that other people can come in and get involved in what we are doing. Yes. So next is Olusegun Akinyemichu. Oh God, please, if I don't pronounce the name correctly, correct me so I'll learn the name properly.
Don't worry, you're forgiven. Is Akinye. Good morning, everyone. My name is Olusegun Akinyemichu. I'm a brand and marketing strategist. I've done that for the bigger part of my life. However, how did I come about dance? From university days, even before that as well, when I joined Spirit of David, and that has been everything for me about dance. And then from there to Span, managing Span for 3 years, which also introduced me to the administrative bit of dance. and performing arts in general. And then again, all my life from then on has been in corporate branding, advertising, and marketing communications. Several. But then everything still circles around back to dance. Because it's a place of passion, I always see the gap in terms of opportunities that dance can be, especially from the media perspective and storytelling for the industry. So I heard Mr. Akanji talk about, because again, there's several arms of the dance space. I don't want to call it industry, but I can call it an industry, right? Where, you know, not just regular dance teaching or dance programs as the case may be, but then bringing in other aspects that would enforce, you know, the importance of dance, and also for this kind of conference and for every project that everyone else is doing as well. So for me, my dream is the media bit, to tell the stories. Interestingly, in the last 2 years, COVID has changed everything. That's changed how this conference too is running, because now I've been thinking about traveling to Rio to be a part of this. But now we've had radio programs. I've invited 1 or 2 people here for our live program radio to push dance. Also tried working on some document to document this, even being a part of that project as well. So yeah, still circling back to dance from the media perspective as well. Thank you.
Okay, Shagun, welcome. It's because of, you know, we've done work together concerning the stories you're trying to tell, and I'm hoping that this could also add to that. So next person visually is Bimbo Obabim. Bimbo Obafuwa.
Hello.
Yes, welcome.
Hi. Good morning. Welcome. I'm glad to be here once again. Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Bimbo Obafuwa. I represent corporate dance world and entertainment. I don't think I know how to do what these gentlemen have done, to articulate their entire vision and mission and all of those things. But I'm an artistic director, and I help artists form that I can. I help artists, creative artists, find light and find express and explore, make impact, obviously. Yeah. So I hope that works. Thank you.
Yes, that works. Okay, I'm going to skip Abel, because Abel is with us here at Montreal, and we have Jemima Angulu.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It's good to be here. I would just like to chip in that I'm happy to be here for the conference for the first time. I know Edima has been holding it for a while, and she's been consistent. I have to give you kudos to that, because it shows development growth, and of course, that the cause is still on, and that cause we really need. Anyway, moving on to me. My name is Jemima Angulu. People call me Maima, and I run a dance studio. So I'm a creative entrepreneur, and what we do there is we provide space, platforms for dance to be used as a tool for individual development, and as well as community development. But as a person, I'm also a creative consultant. So I actually dabble in. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, go ahead. Please go ahead.
All right. So I dabble into a lot of creative things. As a choreographer, I produce my own shows, which also doubles up as a platform for dancers. And I love to focus on storytelling. I use contemporary methods or contemporary stories and things that affect people on an individual basis to, share my own views on them through my productions. I also help other people create their own platforms, and I provide connections for people that want to also create programs here in Nigeria. What else? I love to teach, so I teach. I teach people to find themselves and to use dance as a tool as well, beyond just dancing for themselves. Um, Finding their cause and following it and using dance as their tool as well. So that's basically what I do. Thank you.
Okay, so next is Idong. Idong. Idong just sent a message that she's a spectator. Actually, Idong is the one who coordinates our content here at Danceville. So her hands are full. And then Abel is here. Abel is in charge of our admin currently. So this is us. We're expecting more people because registrations, we had 17 people, but I know that things go. Some people might show up late thinking we'll be starting late, and some people might just join us tomorrow. So I'd like to say welcome to everybody who is present. But there's one more person in the room who I'll introduce a little, and then he will say the rest about himself. I learned asking people to introduce themselves from Mima actually, because when you introduce people, sometimes you leave out what is really most important to them. But the other person in the room is Mr. Victor Thompson, who is currently the national president of the Guild of Nigerian Dance Practitioners. And he's a dance instructor, a lecturer in dance in University of Uyo here in Nigeria. And he's done a lot of research on mystical parts of Nigerian dances. He has a book on that issue too. And I was wondering who better talk about Nigerian dance than the person currently more or less the custodian of Nigerian dancers, for lack of a better term. So please, Mr. Victor Thompson, after introducing himself, will kick off with a keynote with the title Dance as a Product. Now, a backstory on the address is that I think Mima was also at that meeting 2 years ago with David Parrish. Is everybody still with me?
Okay, she's back.
Okay. I hope I'm still recording. So let me confirm. Okay. Hear me? Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. So I was saying that 2 years ago we had a meeting with David Parrish. It was also an online event, and he had mentioned that the future for dance is if we productize our dance, convert dance from just a service to products. And that has haunted most of us who were at that meeting for a while. So Mr. Victor Thompson's speech is on Nigerian dance as a product. So I don't know how we give a round of applause on Zoom, but whatever works for you. Can we all put our hands together for Mr. Victor Thompson?
That's serious. Hello, everyone. You must stop it. Okay, it's my utmost pleasure to be here, and over that, I consider it an honor to be invited to present the keynote address at this all-important conference. How we have been part of the Danceville International Dance Conference, I think since from its days from the inception, and it's been always being that kind of experience you will always look at for the full year. And I want to commend and congratulate Edima and her team for keeping this experience rolling for some time now. I really celebrate you, and I want to celebrate every other person who has connected into this experience, to this interaction from different parts of our space. I believe very strongly that no matter what we should discuss, we should talk dance. From talking dance, many other things will follow. So I believe very strongly that we should talk. Thank you very much for having me. I have a confession to make, and my confession is very, very simple. This is the first time I'm presenting a keynote address in a dance interaction virtually. So that is another first. That's another first on my list of firsts, you know. So it's not this conventional you put up and then you stand up there at the podium and then you are presenting it, you're speaking all the English and all of that. I think in this experience is going to be a discussion, it's going to be an interaction as well. And I'll try to do the best I can in privileged circumstances, and I'm going to keep doing it. I'm asked to talk on the Nigerian dance as a product. It's time I'm called or invited to talk about Nigerian dance or to discuss Nigerian dance. The same feeling will reverberate, and it's this feeling that we have a product already, a product of dance. But the issue, and as it relates to this conference, is if we understand that the dance practicing, the dance we are doing is a product. And you understand that what you are doing or what you have in your hands is a product, you will not know how to place the value in it. What you have is a product, treat it as a product, and of deploying it as a product. By the demands of this title, I may have a little bit into a kind of historical overview of dance experience in Nigeria. So what we are doing today as dance in whatever dimension, whatever in Nigeria, didn't start as dance that we are doing today. In the prehistoric Nigeria, dance was considered as a cultural practice. Dance was seen as a fluent, very fluent manifestation of the people's culture. It was seen as part of their religion. So in communicating to the transcendental elements, dance was very critical. Dance allowed the people of that time to connect to their forebears, to their ancestors. You know, talking to them, praying to them, getting their blessings at the point of decision, getting their standpoint and their positions and all of that. So they saw it and they treated it item that you cannot take away from their culture. And today, let me fast forward, whether we like it or not, we must always say dance as a product of our culture. Dance is a product of the interactions and the programming of our culture with that dance. Dance is the habit of what we do in our culture, what we do in our religion. I always hear people say, when, for instance, you invite somebody, we have a dance performance, that we thinking of a dance production, or we want you to be part of it, and they ask you, what kind of dance is it to be? Is it cultural dance? That's one question when you engage somebody in any dance experience. That's one of the questions that will put across to, is it cultural dance? And then the person that will have to answer the question will now try to cultural dance. It is hip hop. It is it's not hip hop. It is b-boy and all of that and all of that and all of that. The truth of the matter is this: every dance, irrespective of its tempo and temperament, whatever you are doing in the name of dance, every dance is cultural. I'm going to say that again. Every dance in practice, whatever you do within that phenomenon called dance, is cultural. This because every dance is a product of culture. Every dance is a product of culture. I'm having issues. Are you hearing me? Ediba, are you hearing me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Because I'm having issues on my screen, but I think it's okay. So every dance is emanates from culture. So I was saying this to some group of my students, and they said, what about something like disco? I said, excuse me, disco emanates from culture. So whatever dance you are doing, it emanates from culture. It could be contemporary culture or otherwise. So every dance is a product of culture. And the next thing you must do is, it is the culture that provides the condiment. It is the culture that provides the live wire, the sustenance for a dance. Every dance, I'm going to say that again for the purpose of emphasis, every dance is a product of culture. And that dance will not survive, will not go anywhere without the offering of the live wire that it needs to survive. And it is the culture from which the dance evolved that will supply this live wire, this nutrient, this condiment that the dance needs for its survival and even for its continuity. Because the beautiful thing about any dance is its continuity. We don't create a dance today and by next year it's normal. It's the continuity that makes the dance what it is. In fact, what we have today as traditional dance, there will be no traditional dance if there's no continuity. That it continues, that it is just bequeathed from one generation to another generation. It what makes it traditional dance. So if you're clear that every dance is cultural or emanates from culture, then we must see dance from that point as a product. The time will not allow, and this is not a platform for you to go into the vegetarian nature of dance, what a dance does, the benefits of dance, and all of that. But we must see dance, even as we practice, as it's created, as a product of culture and as a very viable product that can move from one generation to the other. That can move from one client to the other. In most of our dances, let's take the traditional dance for instance, when our dances are exposed for a long time to a foreign client, to a foreign culture, that dance will suffer the vulnerability of transformation. It will be exposed to that culture, to the technology of that culture, to the human development of that culture, to the religion of that culture, and all of that. That dance stands the chance of suffering from, if I'm going to use that phrase, suffering from transformation. So you see a particular dance, a particular traditional dance, a particular ethnic dance, after 2 decades or so, that dance has changed. Let's take, for instance, what we are seeing today as a Makosa dance. Makosa dance did not start as Makosa dance. It started from far away Budiuma community of Congo, the Brazzaville region. And now, as Bonioma, they have two major dance forms, two major ethnic dance forms. One is Bonioma and one is Swede. Now, Bonioma has to the basic techniques of Bonioma has to do with the serpentine movement of the body, with all the wriggling of the waist and all of that. Now, the dance become very popular in Congo. And as it moves through the large mass of the African coast, the West African coast, when it gets to Douala, it becomes very powerful, it becomes very influential. It was at Douala that the name Makosa was given to Bonioma dance. Now this is the kind of transformation that happens, to traditional dances, to our ethnic dances, as they move from one climb to the other. Now, the fact that as they move from a particular community to another community, from a particular clan to another clan, and they are still relevant, the value keep increasing instead of depreciating, shows that dance is a very formidable product. And of course, you don't want to get into the marketability of it and all of that. Of course, dance is very marketable. But as I said earlier on, in Nigeria, we must pay attention to the fact that dance, being a product of a society, is dynamic, because society itself is very dynamic. So we, as dancers, as dance creators, we must constantly, continuously reinvent ourselves and our choreography. We must reinvent our choreographies to accept the dynamism of our society. You can't say, okay, this is my traditional dance. No, it has to be done like this. Fine. If it has to be done like that and you keep doing it like that, then the first thing that is going to happen to you, hunger is going to kill you. Because until your dance begins to accept the cultural vibrancy and the cultural intricacies of other climes, then your dance will not be very relevant. I come from Akwa State. If I want to continue to do my Uta dance the way I inherited it from my forebears, then it will not make sense. As a contemporary creative person, be able to use the kinetic element, the choreographic, the techniques of other climes, so that when the dance is finally presented as a product, it will be relevant in other society, so that the Englishman can look at the Ota dance and see some things that has to do with his community and say, yeah, this is it. So that the German should look at the Ota dance and say, wow, this is not German, but then, he has seen some elements of his culture, and then the products will be global and will be relevant. I'm saying today that we must reinvent dance that we've created from our traditional, from our indigenous ethnic spaces to accommodate the cultural offerings of other communities. When we do this, it will not only make our products relevant. When we do this, it will not only promote globalization, because I have a problem with the interpretation of globalization until now. Globalization should not destroy my own culture. I should not put my culture to the point of extinction because I want to promote globalization. Globalization for me should be the optimal interaction of my culture and some other culture, so that at the end of the day, when I put up my dance, my community Akwa Ibom State should be able to say, this is our product. The American person, the American community should also be willing to accept my dance, because it's also promoting, maybe I should say promoting, or it's also interacting squarely with his own culture. This for me is how globalization in the place of dance should be projected. When we do this, of course, we are promoting globalization, and when we do this, we are also effectively dismissing all the mystification we've had, about our ethnic dance forms, and then we are making our dances very acceptable, not only in our culture, but in other cultures. I want to leave it at this point, but I must say this, that the duty is for every dance maker, for every dance practitioner, whether you are a dancer yourself, or you are a choreographer, or you are a dance instructor, a dance teacher, or you are a dance researcher, or you are a dance journalist, in whatever form, in whichever dimension of dance practice that you find yourself, they always tell us to ensure that we promote. If we need to repackage, we repackage. If we need to reposition, we reposition. But we must make sure our dances are presented not just as a cultural practice of those days, which after the performance, the only take-home pay is you drinking your palm wine and enjoying yourself, and then you go home. We must begin now to see dance as a product, in the sense that it can put food on our table, in the sense that it can help us in the interpretation of our cultural challenges. We must see dance as a product that can change our lives and our society, economically, politically, socially, or in whatever dimension we want to see it. I want to thank you so much for this opportunity. God bless us. So Edima, I'm done. That's what I can say for now.
Okay, I hope we have questions. If we have questions, let's collate our questions. But to recap, the message you just heard says dance is a product of culture. All dances are cultural, and exposed traditional dances are prone to change. And dance is as dynamic, or should be as dynamic, as the society it is hosted in.
Yeah.
And we have to reinvent dance to accommodate the cultural offerings of our community, our audiences. At least that's what I got from.
Yeah.
That's what I got from this
place.
I had promised it's supposed to be a panel discussion, and because we are not so many, we had planned for 20 participants, and that's so that everybody gets to chip in and ask questions and make comments where necessary. But it's supposed to be we have a panel that's supposed to start about now. So if you have questions for Mr. Thompson, please keep your questions. Like I said, this conference is 2 days and it's an hour, 30 minutes each day. So by 12:30, we'll be done with day one, so we can all go and do other things and be back tomorrow with questions and ideas. All right, so for the panel, our main discussants are Shegun, who is with us. He's a brand consultant, as he had explained earlier on, and Bimbo, who is a creative director, and also Bimbo was one of the first dance business people I knew. When most of us were dancing for fun, he was one of the first few people who coordinated how to get paid. And Dr. Ifure, yes. So what we'll be discussing on, and also I believe it's also somewhat related to the keynote we just heard. What we'll be discussing on is viable means of documenting our dances. I usually say amen every time after talking. I'm trying to resist the urge to say it. So please, okay. I know there's a way they organize this to involve more than one speaker. Okay, I think this is better. Okay, so we have a few questions. Everybody can everybody can hear me, right?
Yeah, I'm hearing
I
you
keep
loud and
asking.
clear.
So okay, I'll ask the questions. And as other people have questions, you could just raise hands. And like I said, the purpose of this meeting or this year's conference is to discuss means on how we can start somewhere in documenting Nigerian dances. And I'm hoping that by the time we are done tomorrow, each of us will decide what dance we want to work on and test out the ideas that we get here. We've already heard that when we are working on these dances, we should consider past, present, and future, and consider a global audience as well. So first question is, I think Dr. Ifuredi should go to you. What about our dances should be documented? What parts of our dances? The video we saw, they had played different musical instruments and named the instruments that were playing, so you could even identify the kind of sound and be able to decide if you wanted to use it and be able to, as in, like I said, it's a reference point for me for cultural music. So about our dances, as dynamic as they are, what part of it should be recorded, kept for posterity?
Okay,
I'm back. Sorry, the network here is fluctuating today. I don't know why. Cannot be please. Okay, did you guys hear the question?
the question
Okay.
No,
is which aspect of that?
he waited for you.
Oh, okay.
Okay. By saying that question seems to me saying which aspect of dance is important. Okay. But I feel that every segment of dance is, and I will start my answers this way. You see, most times dances in our traditional or even modern forms are lost. They are inaccessible simply because of their non-verbal, ephemeral nature. We have a mixed nature of dance. It happens and it goes. This makes retrieval of dances quite complex, okay? And then when you talk about our dances, we see our dances in a holistic entity. We have music, we have costume, we have movements, we have, all those elements that build into our dance to make it appealing. And things don't come out as singles. You have movement, you have rhythmic accompaniment to those movements. You are presenting, you have a special design of presenting this dance. As what you call it. All these elements are important. And so all those elements should be documented if we have to call it dance. Whatever dance it is. If you must say, for instance, you want to pick on a combi dance. When you talk about a combi dance, you know into a combi dance. You know the rhythmic accompaniment you have for a combi dance. You know all those other elements that come into play. Several things come into play to arrive at what is called a combi dance. And you will not say that it's an aspect of this dance you want to remove to still a combi. You won't let them. Everything that comes into play to make that dance, which is called a combi dance, is important and should be documented. The major issue we have is that we know that dance happens in the body of the dancers. That's the major thing. It is that will showcase it for somebody to call it and ends with the dancer. So now, what happens? What is left? It's just memories of this dance. And for how long can such memories be retained? And so, if you want to have something concrete about this dances, every aspect has to be documented. How are the movements? Those movements must be documented. I am staying on this point because of the question you asked, which aspect? Because it's just doing me like I should move into the fact so many
Okay.
other things, but I'm trying so hard to space of which aspects of this should be documented. And I'm saying everything that comes in any particular dance to be so themed as dance is worthy of documentation.
Okay. All right. Now, that being said, brings me to the next question. Shegun, how? How do we, because in, like Dr. Ford said, dances are passed down orally. In fact, every time I've tried to learn learn a combi, they keep saying, you might say nam tum, as in do it like this. There isn't a description on how to actually do it. They just expect you to follow what they're showing. But when we want to learn, let me use salsa as an example. They tell you front and back basic. Tap forward, 1, 2, 3, tap back, 5, 6, 7. So sorry, once again. Sorry, where was I? Where did you lose me?
So I think you were trying to say the salsa. With the salsa, we have the front and back movement. So
Yes.
yes, I think about
All
we
the
lost you.
steps are named everywhere, as in everywhere, front and back or basic step is the same thing everywhere in the world. Then whatever variation you put on top is your variation. So check what are our options with doing that with our dances. How do we, how, as Dr. Freya said, we have to record everything. And she has broken down the different things that make up our Nigerian dances, the movement, the accompanying sound, and the attire that goes with it. What are our options? What would you recommend?
Okay. Thank you once again. So for me, right, I think it's a big playing field, right? When you talk about documentation, you talk about education. So I think it's a call out to those in the academic sector to help us look into this. In 2020, I studied a dancer who in the 40s, 50s, and 60s actually documented his ballet dances, ballet steps, is the variation of ballet steps that he did with a mix of Houghton technique. And today there's an Instagram page that actually is redoing or what do I call it, reenacting his documentation of his own variation of ballet and Houghton technique, and takes like about 40 minutes every week to showcase the interpretation of those steps. And it's always interesting for me, and I've been looking at that page for a while. Ever since this thing, I've been trying to get that page. I don't think maybe one of those pages I said was brought down. So so really, it's not a new thing. It's just a question of one, because the artist himself or herself is basically embodied with creating. We've not been able to see, roadmaps to who has done this before. So why did I point at the academicians? One, the technique for documentation needs to be taught. And why do I say this? When you look at the languages, this dance, like Mr. Victor has said, this is cultural, it's our identity. We cannot overflog that. I've discussed this on radio over and over again. Food, music, dance are all part of our cultural elements and our identity. So when we talk about these other elements of our cultural identity, we see that language is taught, right, in the schools by alphabets, by sounds and pronunciations, by composition, by all of these things to be able to teach language. Not and by teaching that language, you're transferring the culture, representing that language represents to the next person. Right? So you have it in curriculum where you can teach language from zero to being different level of fluency. Same goes for music, right? And then same should go for dance. So how do we look at Akanji, for example, the video you have shown to us? Dance in itself cannot stand alone, so it stands with music. So if there is going to be a documentation for dance, it has to stem from the music that is being danced to. Now, if we have a documentation of that music, similar to how you have hymns, right, or notations in music, we need to start to have the steps, the stages of the steps that moves for that dance. So if the artists themselves might not be able to do this because they did not learn this formally. They learned it by community, by transfer of cultural values, or by just being in the environment, right, where that dance is being formulated and executed. But for the academician, we now need to look at what are the key things, the key basics that add these dances up together. So if you want to make soup, a cultural soup, let me say Afang, right, as it comes from Akwa Ibom and the Ibibio side of things, right? There are basic things that are found in that area of town that will make Afang. So if I'm going to make Afang in Lagos today, I have to look for that leaf that is not grown in Lagos, but grown in Akwa Ibom, right? So, or in that region. Same with the dance. So if I twist my leg forward, right, facing the north, I need to be able to, create notations or shorthand notations that represent those things. But are we going to leave this to the artists? No, I have to leave them to academicians that can help us document these things formally. If it is not done that way, it's hard work, right? It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of intentionality that needs to happen. And I'm glad that, we can do that with conferences like this to start saying we are creating projects that will help us document these things in collaborations with the creative people, the academicians in the space of dance and stuff like that, so that these things can become transferable. If it is not documented that way, right? Like Mr. Victor has said, once it travels and enters a different culture, there will be a variant that will distort it. And in another 40 years, 100 years to come, somebody will resell it back to us. And we'll now start seeing a different language or a different dance. It can be from France, it can be from Spain, it can be from the Brazilians, right? And then we'll start wondering, wait, that's not what I used to know 50 years ago. So if we start to look at the music that Akanji is danced to, the notations, the high notes, the middle notes, the low notes that these moves are made to, I start to create basic notations to that. Why I said I studied that particular person, I'm so sorry, I can't even find their page, I can't even find my notes. I've been trying to search all along. Was that this person created their own grocery, what do I call it, reference page for their dance notation book. So when you look at the page of the book, you don't understand the thing. When you look at the reference, you'll be able to see what these diagrams represent at the back. So you're able to tell that he's pointing his feet right, he's bending his back in a certain angle, and that's what the person has been trying to teach on Instagram. So how do we transfer this knowledge? We need to start from the basic. There's no dance without music, and there's no music without the culture that it represents. Each dance styles, whether it's Bata, whether it's Akanji, and all the other dances represented in our nation as Nigeria, we would need to start with the music that is danced to, start creating notations to each of these dances. We might not be able to find a universal thing like do re mi as we have with music, but then let's find shorthand notations for these things and then start up projects to start one at a time. And maybe in another 10 years or 5 years, we'll be able to have something. Now, the last leg for me to put it in is now the media. There is no, we talked about education as a means of penetrating this education across, propagating and establishing it. Once it's been taught, it gets established. And then there's a media part. The dance has suffered lack of media, right? And lack of indigenous media or dedicated media. So we have that for music, we have that for food, we have that for sports, we have that, but we don't have that for dance. So it's not been, we've not been able to establish or transfer certain knowledge. So why do I say that? You'll see videos of how Afrobeat was created. There is media to push that. There's dedicated media to push that. But for dance, it's always within our circle. So we've not been able to push that through media to establish a presence, right? Or a definition of what these dances are. So the media also plays a big part. I hope I've answered your question.
Ooh, okay. I have a feeling a lot of people have reactions or questions from your comments. So if you have a reaction or a question, just indicate and we'll, okay. So Dr. Fran, I'm coming to you. But before the reactions, let me go to Bimbo. All right. So Bimbo, do you consider the lack of our, should I say, documentation in the mode that it is, that you consider a problem? As in, because I went to a council here in Uyo, and they thought if by passing down word of mouth, the dances remain true, remain true to themselves. So do you consider a problem, or do you think there is a way we can adapt what we are already doing? A way we can adapt the word of mouth as opposed to doing it the way the West does theirs, with the notation and their congresses. Generally, I'm asking, what do you think about the current situation of our documentation, and what do you think can be a solution?
Now, wow, Omo, you guys, you just set us up, man. All these brilliant minds that you're packed in one place, they're just murdering my spirit. But I'm excited. I'm excited. Thank you for the question. Yes, the answer is yes. It's a big problem. It is definitely a big problem. And I think from the keynote speaker, I think we could have as well have just recorded that and go meditate on it for the next 2 weeks from Mr. Victor Thompson, and we have answered all our questions. Basically, it was up. I was literally jumping. Well done, sir. God bless you, man. I was literally jumping where I was. I was in the car, but then I was like, wow, look at it. 99% of the dancers do not even know about all the things that have been said so far. From him to the lecturer and then to Chegun, that all dance is cultural. All dance is cultural. And the answer is yes to your question, because the reason why you even know the dances that you know or that we have met is because someone else took the time to document it for whatever reason. So I wouldn't touch on some of the beautiful things that have been said that has a lot of truth embedded in it. From Segun's point about the last point he made about media, that's big. We're not having dance represented in the media space as it should be, and that is telling a lot on the struggle that our dancers, dance artists, practitioners, writers, scholars, that everything we're facing as a problem is basically because a lot of people are not aware of the intricacy or the depth that creating a dance genre or dance piece or dance style or creating anything that has got to do with dance right down to performance. They don't know how much work goes into stuff like that. And the reason why the Ekombis and the Batas and the Korosos and it's because in one culture somewhere back in the days, a group of people sat down when they finally found out that, oh, this is the way we do this, and this is why we do this. We are going to sit down and transfer the knowledge. So I was talking to a group of people the other day sometime early last week or late last week. And I said something and it shook them, you know. Even after I said it, I felt like, oh, that was harsh. But I said to them, I said, no matter what you know in dance, if you don't have the ability to transfer the knowledge, then you are useless to the industry. Because survival as a whole, and not just survival, life as a whole is existing because of transfer of cultural value. We are all existing because someone else started by transferring life to us and then transfer the values that have formed us. So taking it slightly beyond dance, it's not just about dance. When does something become culture? Something becomes a culture because it is the way of doing it. There is a way. There are patterns. There are tenets that your father says, this is how we do it. And it is tradition because it is passed down from one generation to the other. So traditionally, as a matter of tradition, this is how we do it. And then there's something that goes beyond how, which is the fundamental part of dance or any art form as a whole. It is the why. And half of the time we know the how, but we don't know the why. We do not know the why. And unfortunately, for as long as dancers keep dancing without knowing the why for each of the dance steps and styles they have chosen to put or represent in there, they would constantly be dancing a lie. No matter how beautiful the move is, it would be a lie because it would not come from the same place that the creators brought the step. So for instance, when you take a beautiful, I'm just using your analogy, the video you played, Akanji, when you take a style like that, we all know, well, not everybody, but quite a number of people know the origin of why Akanji is done the way it is. So they will teach you, oh, this is how the step is. But then by the time they start talking about the waves of the sea and the water, and they tell you, they take you back into how the movements go. And this is why this movement is done like this and done like this. And this is what we're trying to portray. When the next time, if you went through a school that taught you the why, when you get on stage, the how will be fluid. Why? Because at the end of the day, you will not be doing what you were told, you will be doing what you believe. And what we are suffering from across the globe, especially as Africans, is that people are seeing a lot of this stuff, but they are not seeing the essence of the steps that we are dishing out. They are not seeing the essence of the styles that we are saying. This is why, because there is a spirit that goes with each of the styles. There is a way it is that it has to be portrayed that can only be portrayed if you know why the movement is done that way. When you know why the movement is done that way, you will never go out of line. Mr. Victor touched on something very important. He says, and I echo, dance and art is also only relevant when it is cross-cultural. And that's how I put it in my own way, when it's cross-cultural. And the reason why we need to think cross-culturally and think globally is because first and foremost, we are all global citizens. So I have been listening to them, and I know that Shegun's counter was also stating that there's a thin line that just because you want to be relevant to the rest of the world, you have to also be careful not to lose the essence of what makes your original. Because you have to start with original. So first of all, you start with knowing the why, then you know the how, then you perfect this, where that is where technique comes in. Technique is when the style is taught and it is mastered, and the mastered sequence of that step creates the technique for it. Then it is passed down as tradition. It is taken from one generation to the other. Then now it is crossing climes And by the time it gets to South Africa or gets to Europe or gets to South America, you are starting with the original. Then, because you now know that, and of course, you're starting with the original because you have gone through the right process. You are not a lie in South America. Now, by the time you get there, you're starting with the original, but because you know that you were born to connect. Every single person is born to connect. And when you want to establish a connection, what people do is that people remember in pictures. And when people remember in pictures, it means that the moment you begin to give out certain pictures to them or movements to them, if they do not recognize patterns that they are used to, they would not be able to relate. So that is where the flexibility comes in. It is not in any way saying that you should change the original, but it's to say that, see, I am going to introduce this new dose of dance to you, but before I give you what I've come with, I would like you to know that I understand where you are. And this is very important. When you see a Barack Obama goes to China and then he starts his speech to the Chinese community with a greeting in Chinese, it's not that he's trying to tell Chinese that I have learned Chinese, let the Chinese say, tell them that I have learned Chinese and I'm fluent at it. No, he's trying to say that, see, I have come with something, but before I give you what I have come with, I would like to let you know that I acknowledge your culture. So I have taken time out to learn certain words so that you know that we are one and the same globally. Then now you are more open to accept what I have brought as original. Now, a lot of people are not accepting because we're not serving it the right way. And we're not doing this cross-cultural exchange programs the right way. Instead, we're saying to them around the world, hey, this is it. This is our bata. It's done like this, not done like that. And you have ended up like a parasitic relationship because you have laughed on your host, you have given off of yourself, and there is no symbiotic relationship whatsoever. You haven't taken you have not taken from them, you have not shown them that you respect them enough to learn their ways and show them that you are also capable, and we can, as I can do yours, you also can do mine. And then we now come up with something new. If we come up with, at the end of the day, if we do it the right way, we start by learning the cultural notations, basically, with backing up each of the dances, and then we move to transferring the knowledge to the next generation, and then the next generation says, okay, I'm now crossing cities or crossing climes, and I'm going out there, I'm going with original, and then I now remember that I'm here to connect, not to impose or superimpose my culture on you, but I'm here to show you that we're one and the same. At the end of the day, you would see that if we follow this process, then it's important for us to do it, because when you follow this process, you find out that the world is more ready to accept one another, and the culture grows faster. Basically, if you see all that is happening in Europe and America when it comes to Afro, I mean, Uncle Fela and Nikulapo have been shouting about the thing and singing about it and all of that. But if you really take a good look at it, you find out the reason why Afro dance and music is making waves now is because our boys, our young guys and ladies who are into the music industry have found beautiful ways to collaborate with a Timbaland, with a Jay-Z, with another producer from another part. And this collaboration is not saying, this is Afro, we're super, we're the greatest in the world. No, it's not doing that. It's saying, see, this is what you guys do in America. Fine. Look at this African beat. Now, Drake, can you sing on this song, on this Afro beat? Fine, you dropped your bars. How do you feel? Does it sound like great music? And then Drake will say, man, this sounds like the best sound I've ever heard. Why? Because Drake now is able, through that relative collaboration, is able to see that he is better on an African beat than he was on a probably white disco tune or something like that, or whatever he has been doing before then. You know, so my answer is yes, and I just try to take you round and bring you back home to why I think it's so important that people take their time to know the why and transfer the knowledge the right way so that we don't all end up transferring around the world fake culture and we still think we're dealing with the original.
Ooh, okay. All right. There's a comment in the chat from Jemima. She says, for posterity, we need to think about the industry as a larger system and not just choreographers, teachers, studios, etc. We need to co-create with lawyers, musicians, filmmakers, etc. The burden is not for us alone to bear. Being bankable and building the ability to connect and ignite others in seeing the lucrative options is our responsibility. Building industries are not by people who don't understand the business, but have a vision. Okay, building industries are done by people who who understand business and have a vision, not just people who have visions alone. Yes. Okay, so Dr. Ifure had a comment. She wanted to react to Shegun's response.
Thank you very much for another opportunity. Yes. From Shegun's presentation, I must say I am in full support of what he did. I just wanted to react to it because I wanted to point out a few things. When I feel the problem, which is very common to dance practitioners, is lack of education. By this I mean, while the professional dancers, until very recently anyway, were seen as not being well equipped theoretically, dance theater practitioners who are well grounded in the general theoretical system lack equal grounding in dance of their roots. I don't know if I'm making sense. People who actually study for dance lack that ground, excuse me, please, that grounding in the dances of their roots. But the people that are professionals in these dances too, that you see them on stage and you feel they have done magic with this movement, they're very proficient, they're wonderful. They lack equal grounding in theories. Now, this is where education comes in. Education in this case is not just what you go to learn in school. It's not just being there. It's for us to have that collaboration, that we get to merge the professionals and the theorists in trying to devise a way in the academia to teach dance. The person who is teaching needs to have full understanding of the workability of these dances, to be able to format a way of imparting the dances. Some people can talk about these dances theoretically and they can't move one step. There are very few people who have this balance, that practically they are well grounded in their dances and then they study too. Okay, so this thing is all encompassing. We need everybody who is a dance artist to be involved and to join in the same vision that we want to forge a documentation style for our dances, meaning that those professionals should be encouraged to sit at the same level with the people that are supposed to develop a theoretical way of imparting this knowledge, to be able to capture that, so that this one gives to this one and this group gives to this group. And at the end of the day, the resultant effect is that we are able to capture our dances that are so ephemeral, to hold them down in a format that you can actually impart to another person or to another culture to say, this is what we have. There are three major things we really have to consider when talking about documentation of dance: the process, the actual performance, meaning the content within the performance, and then the cultural impact cultural impact in this wise, how is from the audience perspective. This dance that you have so documented, the content, how do the people see it? Your viewers, your audience, how do you impact your community with this? So these are major things to document when considering dance. Three major things. So it does not just begin and end with the movement. It is necessary to be well grounded in the movement to be able to draw up modalities to impact to another person. So it is not just the academia. It is not just looking at the people who are supposed to draw up theories and draw up, modalities to teach. The actual people who know it should be brought in. Many times these people don't even know that their practice is supposed to be held down for study. They just know that you can tell another person, a younger person growing up beside you, this is how it is done, and it is done. And talking about a combi dance, as far back as 2008, I had documented a combi dance. It was my dissertation, the master's degree in Ibadan, and then I improved on it at my PhD level, still in Ibadan. We tried to forge a way of working in consonance with music. I was actually using the musical note value to notate the dances. Now, the problem we have as Africans is that our dances are polyrhythmic. They're multi-metered. So it's not just like the other ones that, when you stretch, you could stretch one leg. An African is dancing, everything is happening at the same time. So by the time you want to forge a notational device for African dances, it is not as easy as say Laban got up and did one thing for Laban notation and it works for people. No. The African would do one simple movement, the head, the shoulder, the trunk, and everything is happening. And then by the time you want to isolate these things, I had to document a 15-minute dance using about 70-something pages. Because you want to bring in everything that happens in this dance, the facial expression, what happens with the head region, what happens with the shoulder region, the trunk and the feet and all of that. And there's no segment that is sitting down like very innocent person to happen like in simple segments. Millions of things are happening at the same time. And that's the beauty of the dance. So many times you get to see that our dances work more as descriptions. When you are doing this, you have to smile. When you have to twist your body this way. It is more of descriptions. By the time you go down to say you want to forge a notational device for it, you see that so many things are happening at the same time, and it's quite tasking. I'm not saying it's not doable. Of course, I worked on it with a combi dance, and I can pick up to recreate what it was that I did. But the problem is how many people are so schooled enough to be able to decode whatever it is you have encoded within these dances. So the bottom line in this reaction is to say that everybody should just come together. The person that actually knows to come and sit with the person that knows how to transcribe it, to get to do it and then teach back. So it's having a central focus. What we want as dance practitioners is to hold down our dances so that we don't get to lose them, to record them in a format, to document them in a format that will easily retrieve without losing any aspect of it. Thank you.
Oh, okay. You see why meeting is necessary, as it very needed, because I didn't know there was anything written down for a combi till you said it, and I'm wondering why I never asked you. I should have. I don't know why I didn't ask. I went to Council for Culture and Tourism. So, so about the divide, I think it was Kafi's conference some years back. She invited, I learned the term town and gown. She invited various lecturers who teach dance, and then invited the dancers who perform. And okay, me, I hang around lecturers a lot. My mom is a lecturer, so I'm very comfortable around you guys. But I noticed there was this divide. At some point, it was like I was supposed to choose who I'm going with. The dancers had their own circle, and then the lecturers had their own. So I'll come here like to see. I have to cross, and I asked them why. And funny enough, the dancers said, "And those ones." Then the do say, I said, I only did Sabi book. Then the lecturer, like, those ones, I don't know what he's doing there. All these children don't know how to respect their elders. So I think everybody was just doing those ones. Throughout. So
My God, that must have been so interesting.
it was so funny. So I was like the middleman between the two. So this morning I'm with this side, but I think that's where the collaborations should first. I think as much as we need to collaborate with everybody, other people, like Baba said, outside of the dance club, we, like you said, Dr. Grace, we need to find a way to work with each other. Even in Uyo here too, we know it's the dancers, some of them don't feel they have a place. They don't have a place within the educational sector. Their own is to dance, not to read book. So so I don't take up already extended little time, but Shagun wants to add to what has been said, and Oga Victor too says he wants to make a comment as well. So yes, I hope everybody who is here today is around tomorrow, because it's going to be a lot of talking tomorrow. A lot of talking tomorrow. We have Aduke Gomez on the panel, then Professor Imelda Odo, who is behind documenting Akwa Ibom languages, is also on the panel, and a lot of other people will be here too as well. But Shagun, you can go on.
Okay, thank you so much, and Doctor, thank you so much for the Dr. Fury for the comments. I think I'm so excited to hear about your dissertation project as masters and PhD. Again, right, this is where, and also riding on what Mima has said, the collaboration, right? So, and you also hinted on that, Edima, in terms of, so now we need to talk about these collaborations, right? So when there is a, from what you said, right, I'll take you from the salsa dance style. So if you see the salsa dance style today on the street of Lagos, this is far from what is taught in the basics. Now, every dance has basics, right? Now, if you come to the street of, if you go to the South American and you see salsa, it's different from what you see on the street of Lagos. Why? Because that part of the movement, of the groove, of the rhythm can be documented. It comes from the spirit, right? It comes from the vibes of the community. Now, if you see a predominantly hip hop person doing salsa, you would tell. If you see a predominantly ballet dancer doing salsa, you would tell. Because there is another fundamental structure that exists from that vibe or that community, where the person is coming from, that is putting on that structure, on that structured learning they've learned. So in as much as our dance is rhythmic, I think there is still a basic. So I'll also take you from music, right? Everybody goes into the studio today to record without any formal knowledge of music. It means that there is a rhythm that we have that already informs us to sing. So if it's shower singing or if it's really just choir singing, we have that rhythm, but we don't know music education as it should be. So they can't compose music using music notations. So for this your project, again, right, I think the gap here again is media. So you couldn't have done such things and then remain in the archives of academic alone, because now we need the media to tell what you have done so that people can begin to see that it is possible. Such collaborations are possible. Dancers today will only be thinking about how to collaborate with video production companies and promoters and stuff, versus even having a plan in their head to say how to collaborate with the lecturer. So nobody is knowing that it is possible. And that's why you can have that divide that Edima is talking about, right? Because you're thinking, yeah, they're one side of the divide, not knowing that we are all building, like what Mima said in the chat room, and building an industry. The industry where I can call up, I mean, Dr. Ifuri today, I'm glad I've met you today. I can call you up and say, I have a dancer who does social dance in Bata or in social thing. And I'm thinking maybe we can have a 2-year-long project where we can collaborate and create notations for these things. And then we support with media to somehow or publicate or announce or publish or get international bodies to also be a part of it, so that knowledge can, how do I put it? There's an awareness to the possibility of this documentation, because the things about Nigerian thing is the guys that are doing the work are not known. The guys that are known are not doing the work. So we would need. I'm so excited to have heard what you have done. Honestly, I have no clue. I was having goosebumps, like, say what? So we can. I mean, I have to give you a call after this conference so that I can even have a look at it. If it is something that you can share to see how it has done, what has been done, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Mr. Thompson wants to say something, but before he does, I've put in the chat room a link to a Facebook group, because, like I said, this conference is a beginning. It's an introduction discussion on I hope, lifelong project we can all be working on. So if, like, the different Nigerian dances, we are talking about documentation of Nigerian dances, I kind of feel it will, some movements show up in many dance styles, and it will really be cool if every now and then we gather and realize that someone has named a certain thing across board, we all adopt that one name, so that at the end of, say, 10, 15 years from now, a document or a video or something unified that says Nigeria, irrespective of how diverse we are, can be produced. As we go on, I'm hoping we could also invite other people we know who are involved after the conference to join these discussions. If you have questions, if you want to know if somebody is doing anything. So the link is in the chat group, and we have also sent the link to people, to emails to those who registered for the conference. So yes, okay. Akanji just put in the chat. I'm reading out the chat because the chats may not feature in the video. So Akanji put in Akanji put in the chat, seeing things from the business side of the dance industry, I believe we need an engine room, a kind of dance hub for tourism. I believe that we could build cooperation and incentivize by English documentation for our dance cultures. Yes. In fact, when you mentioned that that's what you do, I was like, jackpot. So yes, I'm sure a lot of people are interested in different ways, because truly we need media, we need how to push the works we do out there. Yes. So please, this shouldn't end with tomorrow. As if me and you have plenty gist concerning Ekombi then. But before we round up, because we really do need to round up today, Mr. Victor Thompson has a comment to make. And if you have comments, like Bimbo said, we go home to think about what we've heard and then come armed with comments and gist and questions, because apart from the panel, we will have a roundtable tomorrow and discuss certain things. And then the discussions can come up eventually, continue on the Facebook group and other pockets of meetings I'm hoping we can have after we are done. So Oga Victor, over to you. Okay, you're muted. You may have to unmute. I don't know if you can hear me. Can everybody else hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure if we've lost Oga Victor. Okay, while we wait for...
Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. For me, just straight to the point, because we are hard pressed for time right now. For me, I want to begin to look at the communique for this conference. And the top issue on the communication should be the desire to sincerely convey a very pragmatic, synergy between the town and gown experience. that will sit up to begin to deal with this, because we must deal with this thing practically. We must deal with this matter practically, because the issue is documentation of our dance experience. And my question is, how are we going to do that? Let's look at it very practically. How are we going to do that? Is it through video, audio visual? Is it on paper, like what Dr. Ifura, have done, which I've seen it. I mean, we are in the same department, and our students are seriously, pragmatically benefiting from that. This issue of, documenting our dance move, Ekombe, specifically, and it's fantastic, and it's something that should be prized and all of that. So, are we going to do it on paper, or are we getting back to the oral disposition, body to body? Do them like this, do them like this. Like when you were talking earlier on, say that like the ballet and other Western dance form, you have the back and fronts and all of that, the pointe and all of that. We also have it. We also have it in our dance forms. But the issue is that they are not popular. So one of the responsibilities after now should be to popularize our indigenous techniques. We have it. For instance, if you're doing the Uta dance, it's Utakantan, and this thing, will be built from the indigenous content. Then we can now try to interpret it in English and all of that, when we are ready to go global. But there is Utakantan. When they say Utakantan, the person that understands this dance, that particular dance, knows what to do. So we have this. And again, we must also understand that our dances are verbal, in quotes. So when the drummer is playing the drums, it's also talking to you. So we find that in Bata dance, 75% of Bata dance is the dancer doing what the lead drum, the Bata is saying. You come to Ibibio dance, for instance, when the drum is talking to a dancer and the dancer is responding, the dancer understands what the drum is saying and is responding accordingly. So just like Dr. said, when we say education, it doesn't mean you must go and do this and this. It's understanding this thing. And first and foremost, for us to get the template is with the tradition. Since the dances are traditional, so the template for the documentation somehow is with the traditional form. So we must get the template there and then translate it. So we're going to deal with how are we going to document our dances. It's very, very important. Then we must not lose sight of the fact that we must popularize the techniques. We don't have time, as we said, we'll talk tomorrow. Thank you. That's what I have for now.
Okay. Ooh, okay. I hope this has been a worthwhile 2 hours. Yeah. So tomorrow we will actually be discussing how way forward realistically as it concerns certain dance styles. I also recommend that everybody come with a style in mind that they're going to talk about. Not necessarily talk about in depth, just mention dance style and the communities indigenous to, and the state is indigenous to, so that we can also start by creating a glossary of the dances that exist. I'm told that Akwa Ibom alone can boast of at least 30. That's a wide variety, as in 30. So that's one state. Only God knows how many the entire country can boast of. And I'm not sure there's documentation anywhere that says how many. Look, people's hand is up. How many dances the country has. So when we say, when I put this application out for funding, someone asked me, how many dances does Nigeria have? I said, I'm not aware. And they're like, are you sure it's realistic to say you want to document Nigerian dances? So before we go, yes, I'll let Bimbo say something. Then after Bimbo, I would, yeah, Maima will round up and tell us all thank you. And then I'm hoping we are all here tomorrow 11 o'clock. And as usual, the room will be open at 10:45 if you want to do pre-conference this thing. All right, so Bimbo, you're up.
Okay, thank you very much. Victor said something about, of course, the main what the direction is for tomorrow, and I want us to think about it for tomorrow, because in my head, from the top of my head, I'm already thinking, how can this documentation happen without the government? It's a very, we need to be able to answer that question tomorrow. Can this documentation, if you say Akwa Ibom alone has 30 variety of dances in quotes or dance styles in one state, and we're talking about 36 states, that is not a small number across all the states. And in reality, if Mr. Victor is saying that now we need to be very practical, so this is a practical question. If we're going to do 30 times 36 of documentation of all the styles in Nigeria, or at least most of the styles in Nigeria, combining what Shegun has said with media, which is very important, with what the doctor has said. Sorry, forgive me, ma'am, I'm meeting you for the first time, so I can't really remember your name, but what she said about working with the academic sector and working with the writers and the lecturers as well. If we, for instance, if you look at the translation of the Bible, King James, or NLT or any of those things, you see that it's usually a group of people that came together and said, okay, let us translate now. There's my Bible experience, for instance, when they were taking it from just written to audio visual, where you had people like CDJ and you had voices like Samuel L. Jackson, even our own Paul Adefarasi. You see some of those guys came, there was a team that was put together for that translation, my Bible experience. And then it created a new experience for people who were into the Word of God, basically. Now, it's the same thing here, where we cannot run away from putting together a team of people that consists, right down to what Nima also mentioned, consists of even lawyers, accountants, so are we going to either put the team together ourselves? We can answer that tomorrow, or we're going to actually need the government, or we're now going to need certain, and if we're going to do this, is there a way that the corporate institutions can also join? What is in it for them? Because Maima also mentioned, and if you're doing which I think we should, it has to be bankable. There must be a reason for people to jump in and get this thing done, because it's no small funding. So I don't want us to come tomorrow and then now go round in circles again. But it's not going to be small funding. We're talking about an average of 30,000 across 36 states. And is the government going to be involved? In what capacity? A corporate institution is going to be involved? What is the need for them? All these questions we probably need to answer if we're really going to do justice to this topic. Over to Mima.
Okay, so I'm guessing we're saying our final words or something.
No, you're rounding up.
For today?
Yes, for today.
Okay. So I think that this has been a very fruitful 2 hours, I think short of 10 minutes. It's amazing that we have so many intelligent, bright people in this industry, and yet we are still struggling like this. So I'm hoping that this will be an opportunity for us to not just look at things from our own perspective, but come together to see where we have similarities. I'm very well aware that we have individual vision and expertise, but I'm also very well aware that we have this common goal
that we want the dance industry to be recognized, to be valuable, to also solve solutions that others need, to be solved. So let's come back tomorrow. And I hope we can even connect with each other before even we come back tomorrow. I'm inspired too by Dr. Ifure. I just followed you on Instagram. I'm very Instagram savvy. I don't think you are. We need to document. You see, social media is also documentation, so let's try to connect with each other. I'm hoping that, because I know a lot of people on this platform as well. Of course, Mr. Shegun, Mr. Victor. I'm also happy to have met Mr. Bolaji. So let's see how we can go beyond the relationships we had before into a new dimension that will help all of us and also the industry. Thank you, Edima, for what you do, how you push it through despite the challenges. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much. All right. Before we say bye-bye, I don't know why I always say this at the end, but this year's conference, even though it's online, was supported by Goethe Institute. Ironically, I had written to different people about Nigerian dance documentation. And to answer Bimbo's question, none of our local government people answered me. But Goethe Institute, at least, they are interested in this discussion. So they are on board. I'm hoping as more of us have gotten involved, like I said, this is a beginning, the beginning of a lot of steps. We can get more organizations on board. Also the Guild of Nigerian Dance Practitioners, because we can't carry on, we can't continue without involving a bigger body. So our president is here. And there's talk about the Arts Foundation. It's a new organization though, but they are more interested about platforms where where art is being talked about, not necessarily being practiced. They say artists need to talk more. And so that's their focus, in getting involved where there will be a lot of discussing. So to these three organizations, I say thank you. And I also say thank you to all of you who are here today. And I look forward to tomorrow and to the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years of working on this project, because it is a long-term activity. I thank you all so much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bolaji, it's so nice to meet you. All right.
And you too. And everyone. I would like to meet, get to know Mr. Shegun as well.
Okay, yes, please chat. Okay, I'm going to leave the room open for like next 5 minutes so you can chat directly and get Instagram handles, contact numbers, and so on. But like I said, everyone, can we all join the Facebook group? I think everybody's on Facebook. Bimbo.
Bimbo, long time.
Mr. Victor, how long?
Bimbo, now for you, long time.
You abandoned us.
I guess you can stop recording now.